been a while.
So I'd like to call to order the regular session of the Pflugerville City Council, October 24th at 7 p.m. If you will stand for the pledge and moment of silence, I would appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. May be seated. All right, item number 3, public comment. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published final agenda will only be heard by City Council. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by the City Council. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. This evening I have Terry Moore.
This goes for action items on the agenda.
Let's see. What item is that?
That's 2023-1018.
I'm sorry, Chris. 5A? 5N, okay. All right, we'll pull that up later. All right, this evening we have 3 proclamations to present. In 1975, Congress voted to make November 11th Veterans Day in honor of those veterans living and dead who served in the armed forces. The city of Pflugerville, along with millions of other Americans, recognizes and respects the veterans in our community and nationwide for their many sacrifices and contributions to our freedom and security. Both men and women of the armed forces continue to be an inspiration to us all through their display of courage, leadership, commitment, and service to their country. We in the city of Pflugerville will always remember and pay homage to our military community, both active and inactive, for their contribution and dedication and commitment to the cause of freedom for us all. I proclaim November the 11th as Veterans Day in the city of Pflugerville. Manuel Reyes, or you have a group, or did you want to make a comment?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
It's a group.
Okay. I think we have a group of veterans here that can come forward and we can take a picture. Over here. Thank you.
Manny doesn't trust his camera.
Thank you very much.
Well, let me ask, are there any other veterans in the audience that I missed? If you'll, there we go. Thank you very much for your service. As early as 1916, efforts have been made to acknowledge the many contributions and achievements of indigenous people Indigenous People Month is a time to celebrate rich and diverse cultures, traditions, and histories, and to acknowledge the important contributions of Indigenous people. Indigenous peoples are a beacon of resilience, strength, and perseverance. The month is a time to honor the history and raise awareness about the unique challenges faced historically as well as currently. I proclaim the month of November as Indigenous People Month in the city of Pflugerville. And this evening we have Aaron Pyle, Sacred Springs Powwow Co-Chair, and Nan Blessingame, Program Director for Great Promises for American Indians, that are here to accept the proclamation. The city of Pflugerville wants to recognize the way many family caregivers find themselves quickly thrust into the role of caregiver following a health crisis or a change in condition of an older parent or relative, often without the knowledge or access to available services and support. The total estimated annual economic value of uncompensated care provided by the nation's family caregivers is estimated at $470 billion. Caregivers work long days and spend countless hours to anticipate the needs of their loved ones, often facing challenges that can seem impossible to navigate. These acts of love, commitment, and compassion enable their family members to receive the support they need. We recognize the important role of family caregivers and thank them for the invaluable and instrumental care they provide. I proclaim the month of November as National Family Caregiver Month in the city of Pflugerville, and Sienna Lindemann from the Area Agency of Aging is here for this. Would you like to say anything?
So, thank you for having me here. Can you hear me? Thought so. Thank you for having me here this evening. I'm with your Area Agency on Aging. We serve the 10 counties in this region, and we support caregivers like you every day. If you've ever dropped off a meal, or you've called a relative long distance to check on them, or advocated for a child with special needs, you are a caregiver. I do have materials with me if anybody needs some tips or on the services that we provide. Again, we are very honored to serve you in this role, in your role as family caregivers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next is the consent agenda, and Mr. Mateer, you still want to pull 5F and 5G along with 5N. Any other items?
5K also needs to be pulled. That will be postponed to a following
Okay,
meeting.
5K will be postponed till November 4th. Okay. may read the consent agenda.
All right. Item 5A, approving an ordinance on first reading with a caption reading an ordinance regarding the City of Pflugerville's Texas Municipal Retirement System benefits, adopting non-retroactive repeating COLAs for retirees and the beneficiaries under TMRS Act 853.404F and F1 and 2, authorizing annually accruing updated service credits and transfer updated service credits. 5B, approving an ordinance on second reading with a caption reading an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending ordinance number 1203-15-02-24 of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, as amended by approved in a specific use permit for a wireless telecommunication facility on an approximately 12.203 acre tract of land, zone plan unit development generally located east of FM 685 and north of Murchison Ridge Trail, situated in Falcon Point, Section 4A, Lot 1A, Pflugerville, Texas, to be known as the Point of Grace Specific Use Permit, providing a cumulative and repealer clause, providing for a non-severability clause, and providing an effective dates. Items 5F, 5G, 5K, and 5N have been pulled. All remaining items may be acted upon in a single motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. And motion carried unanimously. And so, okay. Deviating a little bit here, but let's move on to 7A, which is, hold on, I'm sorry. 6A, I'm sorry. Shifting around. 6A is to conduct a public hearing and consider approving the first reading of an ordinance with a caption reading an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending ordinance number 1203-15-02-24 of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, as amended by changing the zoning designation of approximately 81 acres of unplatted lands situated in the Peter Conrad Survey number 71, abstract number 200 in Travis County, Texas, from urban level C4 and urban center level C5, CL5 to planned unit development district to be known as the Chisholm Station Planned Unit Development, providing for repeal and conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Robin Miga, Assistant Director of Planning and Development Services. I'll be presenting the Chisholm Station PUD for you tonight. The summary of the request is it's a proposed 81 acres to be rezoned from CL4 and CL5 to a planned unit development. Planned unit development is a zoning mechanism. It allows a development to sort of be master planned, establish their own development regulations where our base code doesn't allow for what they're proposed for their overall development. So we've been working with them on this project since about December of 2022, and that's what we have before you tonight. There are 3 districts that are established through this: the Transitional District, the Greenbelt District, and the Mixed Use District. A little bit of background on this property: it was annexed into the city in 2003. It was rezoned to CL4 and CL5 in 2007, and then the PUD was requested December of 2022. Just to give you guys a little bit of history on where this is located, it is at the northwest corner of 130 and State Highway 45 on the eastern side of Pflugerville Parkway. To the north, the dark gray is the Pflugerville ETJ, and some of that is developed as large lot single family and then smaller lot single family. This shows you the zoning delineation as it is today. So it's CL4 and CL5, the darker being the CL5 adjacent to State Highway 45, and then closer to the single family is CL4. The property, as I previously mentioned, was rezoned in 2007 from Ag to the CL4 and CL5 districts. The Aspire Pflugerville plan calls this out as mixed-use commercial. That's shown in red. To the east of this, you see the purple. That's Employment Center. And then to the north, in the yellow, is single family in the comprehensive plan. The mixed-use commercial envisions a high-intense, very highly walkable, very urban environment. And that's what we've worked to accomplish through this proposed PUD today. It is also, our comprehensive plan outlines neighborhood districts. This is within our Uptown district. You can kind of see that hashed line that bisects. That's the future extension of Roe Lane. So that is envisioned to connect from Heatherwild all the way across 130 eventually, and that is also shown in the concept plan with this PUD. It also envisions more open space because there is a deficit in this area of parkland. also creating highly walkable area and supportive developments, trying to assist in that commercial to residential ratio. Transportation master plan has actually 3 different roads that are called out on it. I'll start from the north and kind of work my way south. So the extension from the ETJ subdivision is called Maple Vista. So that is contemplated to come through this property. The turquoise is the extension of Row Lane. And then there's a purple tangent kind of on the eastern side, and that is a minor collector that is also in the master plan just to provide additional connectivity to this area because there's not much of a street network through this overall area. The roads that are on the southern part of the concept plan, those are all proposed as transportation connectivity through the PUD. They are not in our adopted master plan. So you can see the shared private drives in the red, which is creating a grid network, which I'll get into a little bit later. And then the minor collector is a proposed street that will extend to 45, and that is wholly on this parcel site and proposed, again, to create connectivity to Row Lane. So the proposed zoning districts, as I mentioned, there's 3. There's a transitional district, a mixed-use district, and the public facilities district, the Greenbelt district through the middle. It's envisioned to be a high-dense, urban, walkable environment, but also creating that connectivity through the parks and open space that bisects the transitional district with the mixed-use district. So the mixed-use district is comprised of the majority of the acreage throughout this PUD. It's approximately 49 acres. There is a max height of 160 feet that is established within that district. It allows for up to 60 dwelling units per acre. There is also a minimum ratio of commercial. So there's 1 commercial building that's required per 250 residential units. There is also a minimum of 49% of the ground floor of all multifamily that's required to be commercial or retail. In addition to that, there is an impervious cover of 95% that is allowed in the mixed use district. But when I explain the transitional district, you'll kind of understand the numbers and how they worked out. The Greenbelt district is approximately 12.2 acres. It is with public and private amenities for the parkland. So there is a regional detention pond, which is, I'm not sure if you can tell the little hashed area that's in green. And then they also worked with the Parks Department through the PUD, which established minimum standards that would be required for that parkland when it comes in. It will be required to go through the Parks Commission at the time of subdivision, but they did work with us through the development standards through this PUD process. The transitional district is the area immediately adjacent to the single family to the north. It provides for that extension of Maple Vista. It has a max height of 35 feet. By right, that area is zoned today as CL4 and would be allowed structures up to 60 feet, so they have reduced them down to the 35. There's a max density of 20 dwelling units per acre that's allowed there, though it's noteworthy that it doesn't allow multifamily by right. It's just residential is allowed at a density up to 20 units per acre. And then in this area, they did reduce the impervious cover from 85 to 70. So that's how we were able to increase it on the mixed density that's adjacent to 45. And then all of it would be served by that regional detention pond that's in the middle. So it the numbers overall work out. And then there's a rear setback established of 10 feet from the residential. This just gives you a closer look. At the concept plan, you can see the red line that's coming through the Greenbelt district, and that is that delineation of where the 160 feet in height for the buildings would be allowed, and then north of that, the max height is 35 feet. So staff is recommending approval tonight, and Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval at their October meeting. The applicant is also present and has a presentation prepared for y'all.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Ethan Harwell. I'm a planner with Kimley Horn and Associates. With me this evening are just 3 key members of our development team. Tom Moat with JW Development, representing our ownership group, Leo O'Brien, our landscape architect, and Justin Kramer, our civil engineer. We are very excited to be here to present you the Chisholm Station PUD to you this evening. This property is really uniquely located along the SH 130 and 45 corridors to capture a lot of that demand that we see happening that we see demand for up and down the SH-130 corridor, especially with all the major employers that we all know are moving in to the community. As we thought about this property and how we were going to structure our land plan, we were really driven by two primary objectives. Maintain that existing base zoning that Robin described to you, CL5 at the front and CL4 at the back, and enhance that as we can, and then to accommodate three major categories of site constraints that we have to deal with. The first of those site constraints on our 82-acre parcel is the alignment of row lane. That alignment is not set, but we do know that it's going to be bisecting our property, kind of dividing us into two halves. Additionally, those major collector roadways are going to be further bisecting our property, but providing that key connectivity. And lastly, that intermittent stream which exists on the property, which today I could just call a stream, provides us another constraint that further bisects the property and creates a floodplain we have to deal with, but presents itself as a wonderful amenity to begin to structure green space around to create that regional park that Robin was mentioning as the rest of the corridor begins to develop. Robin already outlined what each of these districts do, but really the heart of our development is that mixed-use district. In this 48 acres, we're going to be able to create a very dense, vibrant, urban mixed-use environment, which really will end up being a unique destination within Pflugerville, a unique land use type. We're going to attract unique users. It'll be a very much so a live, work, play environment. That transitional district is where we have really strived to make an enhancement to the current CL4 base zoning by reducing that maximum height back that on the transitional district to 35 feet. We're really ensuring the development will be in scale with adjacent single-family development in form. We've also taken some actions through the uses in the PUD to ensure that that transition will also occur in use as well.
So
If
you
you'll-
answered one of my questions. I was going to ask specifically why 35 feet, but obviously you're saying in juxtaposition to what's around it, you think it's more congruent for it to be at that specific height, correct?
Yes, sir. That 35 feet is a standard height for a maximum height for a single-family zoning district across Central Texas. If you'll note the dashed line running through the Greenbelt district, just underneath the Greenbelt district label, that represents where that 35-foot height would apply. Everything north of that would be restricted to 35 feet. Everything down is slightly upgraded to 160. The focal point of our development will ultimately be that Greenbelt district. Our detention pond is included in that area. That is just where the topography naturally places the detention pond, but that is separate from the public parkland we'll be dedicating, and we do expect to minitize and that to be a seamless area. As I mentioned, most of the amendments we're making here to base code in this PUD are really to enhance it, to ensure that we're creating that vibrant public realm, the walkable environment the comprehensive plan calls for, and that kind of touches on all the different development standards you could find in development. Building design, landscape, streetscape, we've even discussed specific terms for utilities here. So as this PUD builds out, you can expect a very vibrant urban space.
How many phases?
We don't have that quite nailed down yet, but I would suspect 4 or more. These images really, the top 3 images and your bottom left image depict that mixed-use district. These are great examples on the top left of that facade transparency requirement. We want to ensure that our buildings are pedestrian scale, friendly to pedestrians moving up and down those sidewalks. We have minimum 6-foot wide sidewalks throughout the development. That hardscape is softened with various landscape requirements, including planters and street trees. Additionally, on-street parking, as you see there, will serve as a traffic calming mechanism, but also activate the space a little. The top middle image is representative of what we're calling our promenade, or a pedestrian pass-through that we'll have in the development to ensure that pedestrians move freely through the space. And that bottom right image is characteristic of the type of townhome development we might expect in that transitional district, in that 35-foot height range, within that roughly 10 units an acre density, to transition from a high density area to our lower density single family.
So these are conceptual in nature. How wed are you to any of these concepts?
We are definitely committed to a lot of the designs you see in here, I think style may be the thing that you see change the most. Right. As Robin mentioned, the Greenbelt District will really be the focal point of our development. We've worked with the Parks Department to carve out that 8.5 acres of public parkland around the creek, and I'll discuss how we propose to monetize that in a moment. But this will really be the first phase of what hopefully is a regional park as this area continues to grow and develop. We're excited that this will serve as an anchor for our development, the corridor, and the adjacent neighborhoods nearby, which are currently lacking in parkland. That will be complemented by at least 3 acres of private open space within the mixed-use district. That will form an interconnected network of public and private open spaces to serve residents. In working with the Parks Department, we have identified several different prototypes for these spaces. Really what these are exercises in trying to demonstrate how we'll program the park and to what level of parkland improvement credit we would receive. The regional park would be our largest facility, and as you can see in this conceptual plan, we fully expect to be able to program this park out in a very unique way for Pflugerville. You will note sport courts, pickleball courts, splash pad, several playgrounds, and most importantly, our 10-foot regional trail that will be stubbed out for extension on both sides with a bridge over the creek.
Because you'll be getting a company fee credit on these, are these the specific programs you will be implementing?
So, as Robin mentioned, we still have to go back through the Parks Board, but what this does demonstrate and actually design our improvements and note exactly how it'll be. But this really demonstrates the level of service we'll be able to provide within the park.
And this is the list you're presenting to the Parks Board?
I don't believe we've gotten that far yet with staff, but this is what the Parks Director has reviewed and approved. In their letter, you'll note that they've approved with some conditions.
He knows what I'm getting at. I mean, that's... So
We want to make sure it's real.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting what you're presenting. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So I just want to make
We
sure
just want to make sure that this is actually what you're going to do.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's
This-
the point of the PUD, right?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's why.
Yes, sir.
That's why. That's exactly it.
And so these exhibits are included in our PUD. I can tell you the first phase of our development is very preliminary, but it's likely to be directly adjacent to the park. And that is something that is very important to us to make sure that we get this regional park correct. Noted on the previous
Expand
slide,
on that more. What you just
to
said.
get it correct,
Yeah.
we really desire for this to be a high quality space for the city of Pflugerville and our development. We don't have any interest in skipping on the park improvements. Part of the conditional approval we have received from the Parks Director is an agreement to privately maintain this park for 10 years with an option for renewal. So we're very vested in the quality of this park.
Okay.
In the mixed-use district, we have established 3 open space prototypes, we call them in the PUD, that we can use to create those different configurations and that different integrated open space system throughout the development. The largest and the first one I'll talk to you about is this dog park plan. This plan includes typical dog park amenities, 2 sides, equipment for dogs, large dogs, small dogs, seating spaces, shade structures, even public art. With our agreement with Parks, we can receive potential credit for this space. The other 2 are what we call our promenade and our plaza. These are more passive open spaces that can be used in different configurations within the development to complement outdoor seating, residential spaces, commercial spaces, really anywhere in the PUD where we want to gather and create a focal point from an urban design perspective in the PUD. That is all the slides I have for you this evening, but we're happy to take any questions. I will also add, we have sat with the school district and the fire department to evaluate their needs for facilities in this area. At this time, the response from them has been they have no need. We have also reached out to all of our neighbors. We're currently working with several of the neighbors up off Maple Vista to address their concerns about traffic, but those conversations are ongoing.
And have they? Okay, you said this conversation are going. Have they expressed any concerns about traffic?
Yes, sir, and I believe they're here this evening to speak.
If I may ask, I know we talked earlier about the comp plan and this area, and I'm very excited about what you propose here. I'm just curious, did the small area study that we commissioned for this area help inform your design choices?
It did. We started this process kind of towards the tail end of that effort, that planning effort. I would say the primary takeaway from the small area planning study was the desire to see that regional park dedicated.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
I'm interested, especially where it's located next to Panther Loop, and we know a lot of the development that's going on out there, substantially, actually. A business park. Interesting.
Can you roll back a slide or two? See, we're trying to get to there. Perfect. So I'm looking at the northern end of the Row Lane connector. It looks like we're cutting a slice off of Lot 8 and definitely going through the center of Lot 9, maybe hitting Lot 10 there. Have we talked with these folks and let them know, hey, we got a developer next door planning on some aggressive road invasions, excursions, whatever you want to call them? Are we working with those landowners?
This is schematic, so that
Yep.
alignment is not set. We
Of
have been in
course.
coordination with Travis County. There's also some tech stack coordination that's had to take place related to this, and we don't have anything finalized just yet. There are some development permits that were entered into with Travis County outside of us, and I think some of those have driven where that road actually aligns into that area. But
Yep.
I don't believe that conversations have taken place with the owners because it's not set yet.
Because I'm looking at my private satellite here, right? I think we all have one. You get one when you're elected. And I can see where Row Lane was going to come across. And if we're going to come through the property there, that's probably the less destructive path, because otherwise we're buying a storage facility. And so it seems like if we're laying out a PUD with a design like this, we probably need to engage in those conversations sooner than later.
Correct. Part of that is that that's Travis County. And the PUD is very clear that alignment is not set and is subject to all of those approvals. The alignment will be set at the time of subdivision.
Okay. The other question I had, it may also be for you. I heard, and sometimes I'm good with hearing numbers, 6 foot minimum sidewalks. Right?
There's 10 and 6.
10 and 6. Well, there is only one minimum.
Oh, the minimum is 6.
I heard 6 foot minimum. And in frontage sidewalks, in front of some of those mixed use, 6 foot seems to be a narrow minimum. But maybe that's where we're looking at 10.
That's more the connections that are made throughout the blocks that's
Right.
allowed to be 6 feet. And the 10-foot trail would be through the open space for the regional park.
So let's go back to one of our conceptual cityscapes. There we go. That one. So it was in the context of this slide that Ethan mentioned 6 foot minimum sidewalks. I thought he used frontage sidewalks indicating in front of these buildings, but these look to be significantly more dramatic than 6 foot.
Yes, sir. Internal to the mixed-use district, there were some cross sections that Robin had in her PowerPoint. If she could pull it up. The 6 foot minimum sidewalk is on what we call a residential street. There are instances in the PUD, for instance, on a side street or near an alley, where we do expect to have maybe a residential unit on the ground floor. That section would be used adjacent to those. On those blocks, where you don't have as many people going up and down the sidewalk, you don't have doors opening, ingress and egress. The private commercial drive section, you'll note that's a minimum of 10 feet. And that will be used in those spaces where you have storefronts, doors opening, people coming in and out, on-street display, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I see the shared private commercial. I see a 10 foot with a 8 foot maybe for greenscaping, and then a shared private residential, you're 6 foot with another I can't see it.
Yes,
6
sir.
or 8.
Those are 10, on the commercial drive, it's a 10-foot minimum sidewalk
Right.
with a 5-foot planting zone. And then the residential, it's the 6-foot minimum sidewalk with a 5-foot planting zone.
Okay. Okay.
And the minor arterial and minor collector are adopted through the transportation master plan.
Gotcha. And these are articulated within the PUD?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Any other questions, council?
Could you expand once more on the transitional district area? What are your plans, or proposed plans, or possible plans for that?
So it has the CL4 base zoning, which would permit a residential or commercial use on that property. Our preferred use for that property is a townhome style development. We've modified some of the development standards there to really ensure that it's not just a residential use, but it's a low intensity residential use. That lower impervious cover, the rear setback, the maximum density, that's really going to limit what we can do there. Our goal is to really target that missing middle housing type, which will attract users that are okay being so close to the mixed use district, but not bothersome to our single family neighbors.
So to that point, could you tell me, being a townhome focused development in that area, would that be typically a rented product or a purchased product?
Typically, here in Central Texas, you find those for rent. However, we do have interest in those as condominiums.
Well, that is, but it's 2023. It doesn't necessarily necessitate actual outright ownership. Are you looking at still managing those properties with condominiums, or in fact selling those individually?
Single owner,
Yeah.
individual owner. I would say we hear a lot about the missing middle, and the missing middle, and everyone seems to think that means, oh, we should have houses that you can rent. Whereas I kind of see it as from the other side of the coin. It should be the smaller townhome style that you can own. That's got to be part of that missing middle as well.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that type of product. I know we also see these developments where we have, you mentioned condo, we have a condo lot, single lot with a whole bunch of pieces on it. And yes, people can buy the improvement, or one developer, company, whatever, can manage the
Manage the
entire
whole thing.
development as if it were an apartment complex of townhomes. So I think I'd love to hear some more specificity on that.
Sure. We are just the master developer, and so I don't want to speculate too much about who the end user would be. However, we are looking to attract high quality tenants here. It would not really be within our vision to have a complex here that was not did not have on-site management and did not really adhere to industry standards for what we consider high quality development.
I don't think that's good to hear. That's, at least from my standpoint, that's not necessitate what my concern is. Is that just like what Doug was saying, is that if our generation brought up the fact about the white picket fence and the home ownership and everything like that, and the equity that goes with it. And consequently, that equity allows for the passing of wealth, generational wealth, from generation to generation of it. Now we're incumbent on a generation of not only younger millennials, but Zoomers, who in fact aren't going to have that availability to actually own that equity, build their own equity in those things. So consequently to that, I'm not necessarily concerned about you having a place where there goes the neighborhood, things are going to go crazy, but how are you building a product, in fact, as you have a transitional district where you have the ability for people who have the ability to do so to go ahead and get this townhome or whatever you call it right there, to actually start to build that equity in Pflugerville and transition that to whatever, they want to buy down the path. Does that make more sense?
Yes, sir, it does. In my experience, that has happened through a condominium regime. It lowers that barrier to entry by not having to purchase the land underneath and just purchase improvements, first you're lowering down payment, monthly payment, that sort of a thing. But as far as giving you specifics for how we'll accomplish that tonight, I don't have that with me this evening, but we could certainly bring that to you at second reading.
Do you have a condo developer or townhome developer already identified for this parcel?
We have a few, yes, sir.
You have a few
Interested
in the
parties.
running, or you have a few identified? You have a few already signed on?
We had discussion. We just, that's as far as.
I'm sorry, I can't.
We have a few interested parties we're talking to.
All right. I'd love to hear more about that in the future.
And you said you
Yes,
can
sir.
bring in something by second reading?
Uh,
Yes, you're checking back there.
it-
I'm looking at ownership. Yes, sir, we'll do our best.
That's not yes.
Exactly.
Do you want to put them in a position? to
I
tell
mean,
them
it's
the
3 weeks.
half-truth?
I don't know that you'll have someone signed in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, you mean.
But we
Always
would
want
love
to
to
be.
hear
I
more
always
about
want to be honest. Either one way or
Yeah.
the other. Like that's okay with telling us, hey, listen, it's not feasible this time, or yes, absolutely, we can do something. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Rob?
I guess I just would like to make note, it is a base zoning district of CL4. While it does allow for townhomes, it also allows for all the commercial that is currently allowed in CL4. There would be additional buffers that would be required. There's the height restriction that would be there. But we are still talking generally about zoning, so I feel like I should provide that information. There are a few restrictions to uses that are allowed. So we did remove gas stations as a use allowed by right, and it requires an SUP. And then we allowed microbreweries for all.
I'm not as concerned about the microbrewery, but okay. So you're saying that a gas station would have to get an SUP for it? And my thing is right over there. Like you're literally right by Panther Loop, and they had a ribbon cutting out there, and I've got to say, we talked about tilt wall and what we're concerned about. They have some phenomenal things going on. And that's in our ETJ. I mean, my only concern is that how much their needs are going to start to be incumbent on what this project looks like in the end. Because, I mean, I can see a lot from, those businesses out there, what their desire for theirs. I think the green space is an interesting aspect, for them to have from there as well. But who's going to be informing what that area ultimately looks like? The first thing that pops up.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. If no other questions, thank you very much. Is there anybody else here wishing to speak on this item? You have questions? Okay. All right. Could I get a motion to close the hearing, please?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve.
Or I guess not.
We'll get there.
Maybe. I'll have to wait till next meeting.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, now moving on to 7A, discuss and consider action to approve a resolution nominating a candidate for the Board of Directors for the Travis Central Appraisal District. Do we have a candidate? Oh, okay.
I move we nominate incumbent candidate Elizabeth
Second.
Montoya.
Second. Third. Fourth.
Have a motion and second to approve Elizabeth Montoya. I guess she's agreeable
I'm
to
guessing
that?
nobody else.
She
put
she
it
has mentioned she's agreeable
Okay.
to continue.
All right.
Well, somebody would have
Uh,
known.
Did we,
Yeah.
She's watching.
any other discussion on that before
We
we?
didn't have. We had any other applications outside of Ms. Montoya,
Okay.
or any other interest, made by
Okay.
anybody outside of that.
Okay.
Okay. As I've already pressed the button. Thanks.
Yeah.
I was waiting. I was holding back for you.
A motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7B was postponed to the November 14th meeting. I'd like to then move to the, before we go into executive session, discuss and consider items pulled from the consent agenda, which were 5. Trista?
5F.
Yeah. Okay, we'll open, okay. Okay, let's take 5N first, if we don't mind.
5N, approving a wholesale wastewater agreement with Kelly Lane WCID number 1 for wholesale wastewater conveyance and treatment services, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Okay. And we have a person that wishing to speak on this. Mr. Moore.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear what you were saying. I'm Terry Moore, I live in Gatlinburg, and I'm going to present some figures here. I got these figures from two websites. One from Pflugerville Utility Rate Site. The other one from a place called CrossroadsUS.com. This is concerning the Crossroads Utility Service that is taking over service for, I think it's like 7 WCIDs and 1 MUD. Basically, I'm contesting why Crossroads Utility Service gets a discount on Pflugerville utility services. And I'll present a couple things here. As far as the utility rates, now, these, I call it WCIDs,
Correct.
in the past have been serviced by Pflugerville Water and Pflugerville Sewer, wastewater, right?
Correct.
For some reason, they've severed their connection with Pflugerville and went with something called Crossroad Utility Service. And I don't know the background to all this, but there's some sort of a agreement between Pflugerville and these guys for how much fees they're going to pay for using the same services they used before. Okay? For instance, on the Pflugerville sewer, okay, the Pflugerville sewer is charging $51 base, a base rate of $51 a month for using the Pflugerville sewer system, right? They also charge, and this is kind of complicated, so much per thousand gallons of an average of November to February water usage, excluding 1 month, the highest month, okay? And that charge is $5.70 per thousand. I personally use 5,000 gallons, and I keep track of all this. I'm a big Excel expert, okay? I keep track of all this for the past 5 years. Last November through February, I used 5,000 gallons average. So they charged me, well, it wasn't 51, but it will be 51, because before this change was made, it was $31. So you guys increased the base rate $20 per month, okay? But I'm going to base it upon what I'm going to pay in October. So besides the base rate of $51, I would pay an additional $25 because I used 5,000, well actually about 26, 5,000 gallons at $5.70 per thousand gallon. So you're talking, you're going to charge me, and this has nothing, this is not just Gatlinburg. This is everybody except these WCIDs. Everybody pays the same rate, whether it's Bowles, whether it's Cambridge, whether it's Swenson Farms, or whatever. So, based upon this, I will pay $79 to Pflugerville for my sewer system. On the CrossroadsUS.com, they've got this broken down. Sewer fee, a flat rate, monthly $45.84. I pay, and most everybody else in Pflugerville pays $79. They pay a flat rate, doesn't matter how much water they use, of $45.84. Okay? Next, water. This is on the same page for Pflugerville Utilities. Pflugerville has a flat rate for water for 5/8 inch service of $37 a month. If you have a 3/4 inch service, it's $63.95. Crossroads. Monthly water base fee, 5/8 or 3/4, $17.60. So I have a 5/8 inch, I pay $37 a month. Base. They pay $17.60. $17.60 for them, $37 for me. Okay? Now, water volume. There's a little difference here. They do, again, on Crossroads website, they say if you're using 7,000 gallons of water, you're paying $5.67 per thousand. For 0 to 3,000 gallons, I'm paying $6.20. They're paying $5.67. I'm paying $6.20. For 7,000 to 14,000 gallons, they're paying $5.89. I'm paying $7.80. Get the idea what's happening here? Everybody understand what's happening? On their website, at the bottom of the screen says average bill for 10,000 gallons of water, $138.94. My bill for 10,000 gallons of water, using the same service, Pflugerville's water system, Pflugerville's wastewater system, $213. Now, I live in Gatlinburg, and I looked it up. The selling prices of houses in Gatlinburg is about $350,000 to $370,000, $380,000. Selling prices of houses in I keep forgetting this name. Blackhawk. Blackhawk is in the district for this, okay? Blackhawk, the selling prices are about $700,000 to $850,000. So my question is, why the heck are the relatively poor sections of Pflugerville, Gatlinburg, Bowles, subsidizing these rich guys over there? Why? That's my question. Anybody got an answer? Anybody know why this discrepancy? I mean, these guys, they're pretty rich living in that area, right? Relatively. Relative to Gatlinburg, yes, they are rich. So why equity, equality? Why is a poor section of Pflugerville subsidizing people that live in a richer section?
Sir, I appreciate your passion. Thank you for coming out tonight. It is a very complicated situation, of course. They do not receive water from Pflugerville. They never have. They received water from Manville. They were billed through an administrative agreement that Pflugerville had with those districts. So the water is coming from a different source. Just want to make sure that's out there. A lot of their infrastructure is funded through their taxes. Being in a district, they pay taxes for that. So the infrastructure costs associated with their utilities is covered in a base tax payment rather than in rates. So it gets very complicated. What the city of Pflugerville is doing with these agreements is restructuring the way we bill them for wastewater service. That is the service to actually process their wastewater, not to transport it to the wastewater treatment facility. That's what Crossroads is taking on. And in this scenario, we are increasing the fees that they used to pay. And the reason they went with Crossroads is because we were increasing them to a high level, and they thought they could get a better rate. And we'll see if Crossroads can maintain that in the future. We have our own opinions on that, I believe. But rest assured, the costs that they are paying and the costs that you are paying are indicative of the cost to provide service to everyone in the community. That's the goal in our rates. That's the basis of our rate making, and that's what I think we're committed to doing.
So I mean, in all sincerity, I think that you did us all a service by coming out and talking about this issue, because we don't want anyone to think there's any chicanery or any issues about that. But as you heard what the Mayor Pro Tem said regarding that, some of the fees that you see in your structures, it's just based differently for them because there's no municipal mud. They're in a mud district. It's a different.
I'm sorry.
It's
too many hours on bomber. A lot of bomber.
No, not a problem. They're in a mud, a district which has a different fee structure than what we have right here. To be blunt, this has been something that we've worked on for a year and a half or so. Try to see what we can do, because you talked about equity and fairness. We want to make sure that our citizens We're the ones that were being paid a fair access and access on what can be done regarding these applicable services, not people who are as I'm not going to categorize, as you said, richer your time, but a mud district and ETJ folks who aren't necessarily in our community. For years, for a long, long time, this community operated as if we were operating one, evening in and out between our ETJ and our city in itself. What we try to do moving forward is to have some fairness, some equity, some parity regarding these services, because these services do cost a lot of money. There's maintenance and operation that goes into it, and because of the growth of the city, we've had to expand on it as well. That's why you've seen the major investments we've made into our wastewater treatment plant and our water treatment plant, many things. But make no mistake whatsoever, you are not paying more than what they're paying out there, and you are not subsidizing from there. Or I'm sorry that, it's not necessarily an apples and oranges comparison, but I really do appreciate you, and we all do, coming out here and asking those questions, because we don't want anyone to have the misconstrue that, in fact, hey, listen, we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul over here.
And absolutely, to that point, the reason we're here at this point and entering into these agreements is because we did move forward with saying, hey, we think we are subsidizing you, and we're not going to do that anymore. And we told these districts that we weren't going to allow them to pay less than our citizens. And they went and found their own deal, and we won't be servicing them anymore, and they won't be costing our citizens more than they're providing back. So it's complicated, no doubt. I certainly do appreciate you coming out tonight and speaking, and I'd love for to have the opportunity to sit down with you and go through details if we need to do that.
Well, you need to do that, because I'm not the only one confused.
Mm-hmm.
When I see a bill that says 218 or 213, I see somebody else saying 138. That's obviously something. And somebody needs to sit down and talk to people, because nobody is. Nobody talked to me. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Our next item is, I'll open both of these, 5F and 5G. Approving an
We do need to take action on that.
We approve.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to move approval of 5N.
Second.
Sorry about that.
Doug said we were out here by 7:43.
Yeah. And then you pulled all these things from the consent agenda. We would have been.
To be fair, I did not expect that 5N to be pulled.
It's Holiday. She. Okay, motion carried unanimously. All right, now moving on to 5F and 5G, opening those together, approving an application from MetLife for dental insurance and authorizing city manager to execute the agreement, approving an application from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas for medical pharmacy insurance in 2024 and authorizing city manager to execute agreement.
You like a short presentation? Sure, thank you. James, could you give us or Robbie? Thank you. Sorry, I didn't.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Craig, People and Culture Director. So this evening we're looking to approve an agreement with MetLife for our dental plan. We worked with our consultant Hub this year to take it to market because we were looking at about a 10% increase with Cigna. And through the RFP process, MetLife came in about 10% below current costs. So we're suggesting that we go with them. For our medical and prescription benefits, Blue Cross Blue Shield put a rate cap of 9.5% for the second year of the agreement. So we did not go to market on the recommendation of our benefit consultant, because our utilization rate, we would be looking at probably more of like a 35 to 40% increase. So the 9.5% rate cap on medical and prescription was considered very favorable.
So it sounds to me what you've done is that you've done your research, fiduciary obligation, trying to see what you can in a market with inflation and a variety of other recommendations to make sure that each of our folks who actually work here have the proper insurance, while at the same time balancing that with, what's appropriate for what the city can afford.
Absolutely.
Mayor, would you entertain a motion to approve?
Real quick, one question here. On the MetLife, on the dental insurance, so that's a change in provider, right?
Yes.
Do we expect any detrimental impact to our employees' experience with their coverage?
No, we compare, our consultant compares geography providers for us to make sure that we have the same percentage of providers within everybody's home address zip codes. And looking at the coverage of, the schedule of benefits, I would say there's no change in terms of what you'll pay out of pocket for services between the Cigna plan and the MetLife. And employees will actually have a 10% decrease in their premiums on the PPO plan and an 18% decrease on the DHMO plan.
Wow, that sounds pretty advantageous. Nice. Rudy, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was about to say that's like great, and it sounds like you're still. Yeah, they're gonna be able to keep their current providers, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's the most. More often than not, people don't pay attention unless it's like, hey, do I need to change my doctor? So.
We're trying to do a lot of education on that as well.
Excellent.
All right.
Mayor, you entertain a motion to approve 5F and 5G as presented?
Have a motion to approve. You mean approve them together?
Separately
Trish
or-
does. Together's fine. Motion a second to approve 5F and 5G.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, motion carried unanimously. All right, returning to executive session, item 7D regarding the performance appraisal of the city manager. We're in executive session.
That'll be at least an hour.
Back from executive session, no action was taken. So we have an action item on 7D, council.
So I would move approval of the amendments to the agreement that we've drafted.
Second.
You second the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion and second to approve the drafted agreement for the city manager's evaluation. Yeah, let's vote without them.
I mean, I can fill the time by talking if you want.
That's all right. No, it's all right. All right, motion carried, 2 council members not voting. Thank you. We're adjourned.
I hear them by the restroom, they're standing in line in there.